The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest episode of Cherry Picking. Now, do me a favour. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Also, do go vote for us in the Football Content Awards. You can find all the details at the bottom of the page as well. Go do that. Make sure that you get your neighbour to do it, your dog to do it, your partner to do it, person works in the shop. Get them all to do it. Every little helps. There we are. Bit of a Tesco's reference there. But it wouldn't be cherry picking without my main man next to me, Mr. Matthew Harrison, in yet another of his 100 shirts. How you doing, Matt?
It's 100 plus shirts.
Yes, sorry, I stand corrected.
I think it was 106 at the last count, but it might have changed. Might be 107 now. I don't know. I'd have to count them again. But yeah, no, dug an old one out today because obviously we're going to be touching on a subject where we look back at quite a few older players. So I thought it'd be nice to dig out an old one. But yeah, no, good to be here as always.
Definitely. And albeit, not wearing an old shirt like Matt and not wearing, a training shirt like me, but he's got every right to wear the new shirt because he was the owner of the first one. It is Mr. Liam Humby. How you doing, Liam?
All right, thanks. How are you two?
Yeah, all good, buddy.
Good, mate. All good. Well, also a big thank you as well before we get going into Guest of Cherry to our two sponsors. Firstly, Touchpoint Telecoms at touchpointtelecoms.co.uk for your business telecoms needs from Land's End to Liverpool. Get in contact with Mark and the team. He'll sort you out. Don't you worry. And also, if you need sorting out, but in your teeth department, go to Dental on the Banks at dentalonthebanks.co.uk and you'll come out with some shiny gnashers. So there we are. Do get in contact with them both. But I'll tell you what, let's start off with our regular. Shall we go with Guest of Cherry, Matt?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Here we go. So I'll tell you what, I'll let you read out the clues. I'll be kind.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to do so. So this week's Guest the Cherry was born in Scotland in 1971. He began his pro career with Luton Town, 1988, I believe that was. Has one full Scotland cap. Played for Coventry and Southampton, but he played in the Champions League with Celtic. And he signed for the Cherries in July 2007, but terminated his contract in December of that same year as he was ruled out due to injury, and that was to help the club's financial problems at the time. So that's the clues. As I always like to try and guess, well, obviously I do these, but if I was guessing these, I would always look at the shirt to see if it would help me guess the player. But, yeah, this guy only played for us for a short spell, so yeah, be interested to see if you get it right in the comments.
Well, there we go. There we are. So who is that Cherry? Do you know? Put it in the comments. Don't read the comments if you haven't watched the full show, because then you'll be cheating. We don't do cheating here. We're not into VAR and, giving Manchester United free penalties and free kicks just to help them out. No, we don't do cheats. But I'll tell you what we do is we do good content. And what have we got coming up today, Matt?
Well, yes, today we've got our new feature. Our feature today is underrated. So we've done a Facebook poll recently. There was a post on Facebook asking people who they thought their most underrated players were that had played for Bournemouth at some time during their careers or in some era of the club. So it could be from present day all the way back through the history of the club. And we had quite a few responses, which we've collected all together. And we're going to discuss them in this episode. So if anybody thinks of any players while they're watching this or got any comments on the players that we're discussing, pop it all in the comments.
Yes, do so. Please do so. Well, I tell you what, let's get it underway with number one. And who is number one?
So number one is actually, Sean McDonald. So Sean McDonald was picked by Greg Lisk on Facebook. So thank you to Greg. He picked a couple of players for us. Sean McDonald. Very good player. I always thought he was a very good player, to be honest.
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed watching him, and I do remember actually watching him have a good game against us for Yeovil. I can't remember if it was a cup game or what, but I do remember him having a good game against us as well. But I thought, I can see why Greg has picked him as an underrated player. I think his game time at Bournemouth was always very, very limited. He did have some very, very good competition at the club at the time. Obviously Harry Arter. We had Ewan O'Kane in that position later on. Obviously, Sermon come in, and we had quite a few different styles of midfielder as well at the same time. He scored a crucial goal in a 3-0 win over Cardiff, which helped maintain our promotion rate when we won the title that year. So he did contribute as well. But I mean, what I want to do is throw it back to yourself quickly, Craig. Craig, do you think Sean McDonald was an underrated player? Would you agree with Greg?
Yeah, I do think he was underrated. I think he, was a lot better than he was a quiet guy. He didn't demand or shout about, and want to gain the attention. You could say that some players that have played for us, throughout the years have wanted that attention. Sean never really wanted that, but he was very, very capable, in that level, of doing a hell of a good job. I know that Swansea fans, even though he didn't play very much for the Swans, they thought a lot of him. We had Chicken Head on from the call centre some time ago, and he sang Sean McDonald's praises, so rightly he should do, because I think Sean McDonald was a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong, he was in the very, very good midfield that season that we went up, but he was vital when he was called upon.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. Liam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, great player, I thought.
Yeah.
The Ginger Sedan.
Ginger Sedan. Love it.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was a nickname going around for him, wasn't it? Yeah. But do you think he was kind of similar at international level, wasn't he? It was a case of at club level, he was always competing with, a whole range of different types of. I think that also was the same in his international career. He was always good enough to be called up, but always had a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So I don't think he earned many Welsh caps, did he? But he was capped at international level. So good player.
Yeah, good player for us.
Yeah.
Look at the players as well that Wales had in that era when he was with us. Gareth Bale was in his prime. Of course, got them to the semi-finals of the Euros. It was always going to be very, very difficult for Sean to break in and break past those players that were doing so well and were quite established, to be fair, at the time. I think they were, quite established team. I think Sean probably got in there probably a little bit too late, but that's no disrespect to him as a player and as a man. I think, it was just unfortunate timing, really, why he didn't get more caps. I think he would have been a real asset, though.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Let's have a look at Greg's second choice on Facebook. And his second choice was another midfielder, in Brian Stock. So Brian Stock. Now, do you know what? I never ever thought of him as an underrated player personally. I thought he was a quality player, and obviously went on and played, at Preston. I don't think it worked out too well for him at Preston, but he had a fairly decent career at Doncaster, which I think he was in the Championship most of that. Also had a spell in the Championship with Burnley, and then ended his days in the non-league football with Havant and Waterlooville. But guys, I mean, obviously this is everyone's own opinion. No one's right, no one's wrong.
I used to love Stocky.
You used to love Stocky, did you, Liam?
Yeah, great player.
Yeah. What else did you love about him?
The way he used to pass the ball.
Yeah, he was a good passer. Yeah. He was a good passer with the ball. Yeah, short and long. Yeah, no, you're right. And I just think it was a bit of a surprise, this one, but I do understand in some respects why he may have selected him. I mean, Craig, have you got anything you want to touch on with Stocky?
Well, to be honest, after he left us, he did go to Preston in the Championship. Preston, remember, at that time were doing quite well. They were pushing towards the top of the league. They were trying to get. Unfortunately, they kept finishing in the playoffs, and Preston North End are never very good in the playoffs. So they did come quite close a couple of times. Then went to Doncaster, but the biggest thing for me is that do keep in mind that Eddie took him to Burnley, which shows a lot of credit and a lot of trust, in Stocky. And in fact, if you look at his appearances that season, and I've done this in the past, if you look at his appearances, most of them come under Eddie Howe. It was only when Eddie Howe left, and of course Sean Dyche kind of took over, that it kind of fell off a cliff for him. And then he never really, in all honesty, made it back. Of course, he went into non-league after that. But I would agree here with Greg that he is probably underestimated, but not by Bournemouth fans. I don't think he's not underrated by Bournemouth fans. He's underrated by football. Whereas you could say Sean McDonald could probably be, you could say was probably underrated by Bournemouth fans. If you ask for players from that era, Sean McDonald's probably going to be quite low down in the list, even though he contributes so much. Stocky, if you did the same for Stocky in this era that he played for us, it's probably not going to be the same thing. But as a footballer, he could have probably played a lot more for better teams than Doncaster Rovers in the Championship, in all honesty. So that's why I say underestimated, of course, at that level.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. So that's Brian Stock. And thanks to Greg for his two choices. And we move on to another choice from Facebook, from the Facebook poll. And that was from Ray Cable, who picked out Bobby Savage. Now, I'm sure a lot of younger fans won't know this name. I'm sure a lot of older fans probably will. So it'd be interesting to see.
I was in nappies.
Yes. So was I. See if Malcolm remembers this name, and maybe Paul from Oz. But so yeah, Bobby Savage. When I was actually researching this, the hardest, because I had to do some research on this, the internet wasn't much use, because every time I put in Bobby Savage, it came up with Robbie Savage. So I had to dive into some of the books for this one. But yeah, started his career at Liverpool. 5-year spell, as I think he started as an apprentice and got a pro contract, but made no first team appearances there. It was actually a loan spell with Wrexham, which actually kick-started his career. He played 27 times on loan for them, scored 10 goals before a short spell at Stoke, which didn't go too well. And it was at Bournemouth where he had quite a bit of success, actually. He moved to Bournemouth midway through the 1983-84 season. where he became part of Harry Redknapp's squad during a transformative period. So he played in the legendary 2-0 victory over Manchester United in the FA Cup third round. And that's something Daz from Oz will remember when he's watching this. Can you remember him though, Daz? Can you remember this guy playing in that game? If you can, put it in the comments. And he helped Bournemouth to win the very, very first year of this competition. It's now obviously the EFL trophy, sponsored by somebody's next door neighbour's garage or whatever it is. I could never keep up with it because it keeps changing sponsors. But in its original form, it was known as the Associate Members Cup, which Bournemouth won the first year, the first trophy, the first tournament of that. Obviously, went on throughout the years to become other competition names. Obviously, most famous for us, other than the Associate Members Cup, will obviously be the Auto Windscreen Shield. But
Yes.
that's Bobby Savage that's been selected by Ray Cable on Facebook. So thank you very much, Ray. Craig,
Any relation to Robbie?
I don't know. I just
He's
every time.
wearing Wrexham top.
Yes. Well, the thing is, every time that's why I went back to my books in the end, because every time I just put in Bobby Savage onto the internet, it come up with Robbie Savage. And I saw Robbie Savage's face and it just made me turn it off. So I then went back to my books. So I know I like Robbie Savage. He's funny.
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't know if they are related. I don't think they are. They might be. I don't know. But
well, maybe we could ask Robbie Savage one day. You never know. Robbie, if you want to come on, do come on and tell us about Bobby. You know, although saying that, I did speak to him once, didn't I, on the way back from Liverpool. That's enough of that. Yeah, moving
was that
swiftly on.
Savage? Was it?
Yes, that was
Oh, I
Chris
thought it was
Sutton
Savage.
and Robbie Savage.
Oh, it was the pair of them, right?
Yes. Neither of them agreed with me that Scott Parker should have been sacked. However, Maxim Delim did. So that really is the one that matters, isn't it?
That's the one that matters. Yeah, and again, if I haven't thanked you already, Ray, thank you for your choice there. Very interesting one. Name really, a real blast from the past, should we say. Next one then, Harry Arter, who was selected by Sean Ray on Facebook. Obviously, Sean contributes to our Cherry AM shows and sometimes he appears on our Cherry Slap shows. So yeah, he's picked Harry Arter, which I think is quite an interesting one actually, because this is another one, Craig and Liam, that I don't really think, definitely at Bournemouth anyway, he was underrated, but I feel he's been underrated. Is it, or has Sean picked him maybe because of the start in his career, where obviously do you see what I mean? Maybe because he was at league level with Charlton, didn't make it, went through the lower tiers to then bounce back. I know it's interesting, Sean. If you are watching this, obviously pop some more detail in the comments. But
that promotion team is vital in that.
Yes, he was. He was absolutely vital.
And I got a story about Harry. The only person I had on back of my shirt. I've never had anyone else.
Never had anybody else.
No.
Just number 8, Harry Arter. What made you do that? Just quickly before Craig, because Craig's itching to come in. So what made you have him on your shirt? Because obviously I've got quite a few shirts printed, as I'm sure you know, Liam. But what made you think just him?
He's a great player, I thought, that time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. Or which shirt was it? Out of interest, which shirt did you have printed?
It's that red and black one.
What, the one he's got on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first shirt from Umbro. Oh, okay. Well, let's let Craig come in because he's itching. Go on then, Craig.
Yeah. Harry Arter's an interesting one. I definitely don't think he was underestimated at Bournemouth or underrated at Bournemouth. What he did for this football club was tremendous. Of course, he joined when we was in League One. He played in the Premier League. He started off his career in a low division. Of course, his career at Charlton didn't take off at all. What I don't understand about Harry Arter, and this is why maybe he is in this underrated category, is what really happened after Bournemouth.
Mm,
Let's be fair, the the time at Cardiff didn't work. The time at Fulham kind of worked. In all honesty, he would have been better staying at Fulham than he would have been than going to Nottingham Forest. Went back to Charlton. That didn't work. The Notts County one is just bizarre. And now he's in Saudi Arabia, I think. In all honesty. Um, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. I feel really sorry for Harry Arter because, of course, we know what he went through. I don't want to
yeah,
repeat it, but the iconic photos of Eddie Howe with his arms round Harry, and he's a good lad. That maybe Bournemouth was his place. Maybe looking back, he would have done everything and moved heaven and earth to stay at this football club
mm,
rather than go on the journey that he did outside of it. Apart from Fulham, I can't say that he was a success anywhere else, unfortunately.
no,
At Bournemouth, though, he most definitely was a success. And I'm sure if he could go back in time now, he would have stayed with us.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
definitely.
And like Liam said, he was integral in that promotion season. But yeah, no, interesting choice there from Sean. So yeah, thank you, Sean, for your
Yeah,
contribution. Let's have a look at the next choice, which is again from Facebook.
Mm.
Keith Hapgood. This is the first one. He's chosen two for us. So thank you, Keith, for this. And his first one's Jack Stacey. Now, I'm
mm,
kind of glad he brought this guy up because I
Yes.
do agree with Keith here. So
yeah,
Jack started at Reading in terms of his professional career. Barnet on loan and Carlisle on loan, Exeter on loan before moving on to Luton, where he really hit the ground running at Luton. When he signed for Bournemouth, I actually thought he would eventually become Smithy's successor, to be fair. But obviously, how wrong was I? And he's actually having a really good spell now at Norwich City. So yeah, 4 million he cost Bournemouth back in 2019. He played in both Premier League and the Championship for us, and he scored his first and I think his only goal actually for the club against Blackburn Rovers during the COVID days. Because I remember watching that one on AFCB TV.
Yeah.
Craig, let's come to you first. I'll have a little say on him as well at some point, and then I'll
Yeah.
come to you, Liam.
yeah.
Jack Stacey, underrated.
I know quite a bit about Jack Stacey. As everybody knows, I was born and bred in Reading and then moved
Mm,
down to Bournemouth, a long, long, long time ago. And Jack Stacey was brought up in Bracknell, which is not that far away. Comes from a very, very good family, a very footballing focused family. And Jack, I guess Reading at the time, if you look at what was going on there, um, at Reading, they were in the Premier League, for the first year he was at Reading, and then gradually went into the turmoil that they are now. They do have a very, very good academy and started loaning them out to other clubs like Barnet, Carlisle, Exeter, as mentioned there. Um, but what he really needed was a stability. This is why sometimes, when a player goes to Chelsea or Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal, and they go there because they think that their career might take off, and maybe it might do, but for 99.9% of players, it won't do. And this was the problem with Jack Stacey, was he was at a club which had, at that point in time, not anymore, but had at that point of time had probably one of the best academies in the country, and just couldn't break through into the first team. Um, Going to Luton was the godsend for him. You know, he needed probably that stability, that location where, you know, he could instead of going out load everywhere, he needed some stability in his career. And it was when at Luton he really excelled. You know, of course, when he come here, he did very, very well. And I thought, you know, at that point, I did think he was the future. I did think he was the future. I think thought he was going to be the one to replace Smithy. For some reason, I just don't think it worked for him really here, and I think he could never really eclipse or get to the levels that Smithy was at. You know, there was a couple of games, if I remember, one against Luton, his old team, in that promotion season, where, you know, he wasn't particularly very good. So Jack Stacey, yeah, I think he is underrated, but he's having a great spell at Norwich, and I think, you know, he will be a very, very good player for a long, long time to come.
Yeah, Liam, what's your thoughts on Stacey? Did you rate him, or did you feel
Yeah,
rated?
he's a bit unlucky that Smithy is such a good player for us, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
When he came in, he did really well.
Yeah, no, he did, and I really rated the guy. I thought he was excellent, and so much so that I actually had my shirt that season.
Ooh.
There we are. That's what he was getting.
Jack Stacey, because, and I'll tell you what it was. It was after he scored that goal against Blackburn. I thought he had a great game that game, and I remember saying, "I'm going to get Stacey on the back of my shirt this season," and I did. Unfortunately, obviously, it didn't work out for him at Bournemouth, did it? But yeah, no, shame. But I always rated him. I always thought he was good, but I feel he was always underrated at Bournemouth.
He's a nice lad. He's a nice lad. He comes from a nice family, you know, and I think personally, wish him the very, very best with Norwich, and hopefully one day he will be back in the Premier League. I think Norwich is struggling a little bit in the Championship, but from what I've seen, he's probably one of their best players.
Definitely.
So yeah, Jack Stacey, underrated at Bournemouth, probably not so much in football. Probably, you know, he could get there.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I mean, I've got a funny story actually about Stacey. We got off the train. It was for the Southampton away game. We got off the train, myself and my dad, and we were walking to the ground. And there was this guy following us. You know, when someone's following you, know, you got that feeling, haven't you? You know. So we kept looking over our shoulder, and this was not far from the stadium. I think we were actually walking along St Mary's. I think the church was on the street, St Mary's Church, near the college. And we're just walking along casually. And we just thought, you know, who is this? So we stopped and turned around and said, you know, you all right? And he was like, no, he said, I've seen you've both got Bournemouth shirts on, so I'm following you because I don't know where the ground is. So we were like, oh, that's fine. You know, we got chatting to him. And I remember we saying, you know, who do you support then? And he said, oh, you know, I'm a Spurs fan. And I thought, okay, Spurs fan coming to watch Bournemouth and Southampton. Okay. So we said to him, you know, what brings you to this game? Then he goes, my son's playing tonight. He's in the squad tonight. And we were like, oh, who's your son? And he's like, Jack Stacey. And we chatted to him all the way to the ground. And when we got to the ground, he said, sorry, lads. He said, but I've got ticket in the posh seat, so I'll see you later. No, he was a lovely guy. We had a really good chat with him. And he was actually telling me an interesting story that he was actually with Jordan Ibe for a bit at Wickham before he went to Reading, apparently.
I think you might be right, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember him saying, because we were discussing Jordan Ibe and his time at Wickham when they were both there together. So yeah, really interesting conversation with his dad that night. You know, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes the people you bump into. And but thanks to Keith for that choice. That's Jack Stacey, and Keith has also given us another choice on Facebook, which is one that I'm sure Craig's got a lot to say about. So I'm not going to go to him first, but it's Dango Atara. So Keith believes that this guy was underrated while he was at Bournemouth. Is his choice as an underrated player. I again can see why he's picked this guy. Craig, I'll let you go first actually on this one because what I'll do is if I've got to cut you off, I'll just bring you out the room and let Liam talk. So go on then, over to you.
Was he underrated at Bournemouth? No, I don't think he was. He was one of those players that he was a luxury player. He would do 10 things. 9 of them would be completely and utterly bizarre. And then one thing would be completely sublime. And it'd be like, where the bloody hell's he pulled that out from? In one game, of course, we know which game, he did a lot right. And, of course, scored a hat trick. He tormented that poor football club. I shouldn't call them poor football club. We don't really like them. But, he tormented that football club, by scoring those 3 goals. He could have got a lot more. So he's not underrated for me. He is a luxury player that does bizarre things sometimes, and those bizarre things are quite nice when they come off. So yeah, I do like this man. He's always got a smile on his face. I don't understand the Brentford move. I think he was wanting more football, but we couldn't offer it because, hey, look at the quality we've got.
He's not really getting that at Brentford, though. Don't really get.
You're quite right, Liam.
That's a point, Liam. Yeah, that is a good point, isn't it? I mean,
been on a subs bench quite a lot.
I think he started against United, but that was his first start for a little while, wasn't it? So it does make you wonder. I mean, I think he was a bit, in terms of underrated, but I think should he have played more when we look back at it? Should he have played more than he did? I was always a fan of him as an impact player. He was that, like you say, luxury player that you can say, right, I'm going to bring you on and you're going to change this game. We know you're going to change the game. You don't know what he's going to do. He was quite unpredictable. I think if you're playing against him, if you've been a fullback and you've been playing 65 minutes against someone else and then he comes on, you think, God, I'm going to be in for one now because you just don't know what he's going to do.
No.
So I don't think underrated, but I do think I can see where the wide selection's been made on this one. Definitely. But
I'll be honest. I think Keith Andrews has probably guessed him out that he is one of these players that is a luxury player that just comes up and does bonkers things. He has to be more consistent to actually get, if he played like he did against Nottingham Forest all the time, he would be in the first team for, most teams in the Premier League. To be honest, I think he'd probably get in the first team of the Man United team if he played like he did.
Yeah.
Every time, like he did against Nottingham Forest, but he doesn't. This is the problem. And I think Keith Andrews has probably realised that, and he's going, well, he's an impact player like we found out, so he's going to get frustrated for a bit longer, I think, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But would you say is his best position winger or striker?
I'd go with striker, really.
Oh, really? Well, I think winger. Craig thinks striker.
But when he was on the wing, how many times did we get in really good positions, up the pitch? He used to fire it in, and he was like, "That's too short." Or, he'd fire it straight over, and it'd be like, well, "That's way too long." He never really got it pinpoint on target most of the time. He did it once or twice, but it would probably be something that you would never think that he'd ever do, and he probably wouldn't be able to do again. This is what I mean about Dango Atara. He's a funny player. He's a nice bloke. I really wish him the very best. But if he's really looking for top flight consistent football. I think he needs to have another think about it, because I think he might have actually shot himself in the foot going to Brentford in the first place. Hey, we made some good money out of it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very very good money, very good money. But let's have a look at the next choice. Thank you, Keith, for your choices, and it's one of mine. Mark Morris. Do you know what? He was actually, and I've said this I think time and time before, he was actually one of my first favourite players. He was
Mhm.
in the program, the match program. They used to do like a poster inside where there would be a space for them to have their autograph, and he was the first one I ever took out of a program and put on my bedroom wall. He was a hero of mine. He was one of the original members of the crazy gang at Wimbledon.
Yes, yeah.
Between 80 and 87. Had a spell at Aldershot on loan, sort of halfway through his time there, and then went on to Watford and Sheffield United before coming to Bournemouth in 1991. What I loved about this guy was that a good old fashioned defender. You know, when you watch those old fashioned defenders, put his body on the line, a great leader. But I always thought towards the end of his time at Bournemouth, he sort of became, and this might be under Machin, to be fair. I always thought he was a little bit underrated by Machin, and I think maybe Machin knew he had to make a change, bring new players in. Obviously, coming for the 94-95 season, the Great Escape season. So the following year, he moved on to Gillingham on loan, and then off to Brighton and Hove Albion eventually on a permanent transfer. So wasn't scared of scoring a goal either. He was just, I just thought he was great, but I just thought towards the end of his time at Bournemouth, he was just a little bit underrated. But I'm not too sure whether you guys would actually probably know much about him, to be fair.
Not really.
I know a bit, of course, from what I've seen and read and heard about in the past. Of course, starting off at Wimbledon, was part of, I believe, that rise up the divisions with them. So of course Wimbledon, if anybody is too young to remember, Wimbledon were actually a non-league team that got promoted into the Football League, like their Phoenix club, and then gradually got up the leagues. So he was part of, or the latter part of that journey, but making a decent amount of appearances for them. Went to a couple of clubs, Watford, Sheffield United, before turning up here, where he had the majority of his spell, and back in the early 90s, was an integral part. So, was he underrated? Um, Probably so, I think. Yeah, probably so. I think nowadays, if you look back and you turn around and said to a Bournemouth fan, "Tell me about Mark Morris," they probably wouldn't know much about him, which is a real shame. Which is a real shame. But
I
yeah,
think a lot of the older supporters do, definitely. A lot of
yeah,
the but no, I just thought towards the end. I remember we turned up at a game one day and he didn't start. And I remember saying to me, "Dad, why is Mark Morris not playing?" And they said, "Oh, he's
mm,
gone to Gillingham on loan." And I was just like gutted, absolutely gutted. Um, but yeah, he actually went on to play for Dorchester Town as well, and he's actually been regarded as Dorchester Town's most successful manager. So
yeah.
yeah, but that was just one of my choices. I do have another choice, which I'm sure you'll both be pleased to hear.
Do
But
you
this
know
one,
what? I'd love to get Mark Morris on, just to find out a little bit about that crazy gang story. Did he, did he have any fights with Fashanu? Did he, have any clothes burnt with Dennis Wise? Who
yeah,
knows? Who knows?
yeah, I bet he's got some stories, and he played under
Yes.
Dave Bassett as well, I believe.
Oh,
So
crikey, Dave Bassett, yeah.
that's a great manager. I don't know if he played under Bobby Gold,
Mm,
but
might
yeah,
well have actually.
be interesting to hear, wouldn't it? would be interested to hear. I'd love to do that. Like I say, my first hero growing up. So, but this choice might interest both of you. You might have a few views on this one. Mohammed Koulibaly. Now, reason why I've selected him is because when he used to play, I used to think there was quite a bit of talent there, but I think he was very, very unlucky with injuries and then disappeared out of nowhere. And I think he became underrated the longer he was at the club because he kind of went out on loan. I think he had a spell at Coventry, isn't it, and Port Vale. Loan. And then when we got promoted to the Premier League, the club released him. But I always thought there was some talent there. I remember him playing in the Real Madrid game.
Yes.
Playing in that. And I remember when we first signed him, he looked really, really exciting. He looked like a great prospect. But I think with injuries and other reasons, I just think he sort of fell down the pecking order and it became underrated. So rather than someone being underrated, I think he became underrated. But I don't know what you two got any memories. I don't know if you want to go first, Liam, on this one, maybe.
Go for it, Liam.
Yeah, I remember the Real Madrid game. He really played well that match.
Yeah, see, I thought he did as well. I think you're right. I thought he did as well. You got any other memories of him, or is it just because, like I said, he played 7 times in the league for us, I believe.
Yeah, I can't really remember.
No.
Much.
Yeah, no. I imagine it's it's one of those that he's because he didn't play so much. It's hard to have a bit of a memory about him, isn't it? Craig.
So, Mohamed Koulibaly, in all honesty, what can I say about him? I think personally, he showed that he had a lot of quality at certain spells. It didn't play very much for us at all. Didn't really play much during his career. If you look at his latter part of his career, that's when he had the most appearances. Dare I say this? He probably made himself underrated. And I do question whether or not, as well as the injuries, if he's a bit lazy. So yeah, it's one of those that kind of made himself underrated because there was a player in there. Most definitely, there was a player in there, but he only started playing when it was too late in his career.
Yeah. No,
Sounds harsh. It is a bit harsh, to be honest.
Yeah. But I mean, he did actually, he had quite a journey as a player, and it did span across 5 countries as well. So, and that included some cup wins and promotions, apparently. So,
yeah, but he only played 18 times in this country.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, but across the other countries he did play in, apparently he did have some cup wins and promotions. So, an interesting career I think he had after Bournemouth. But yeah, no, I just think he was a bit underrated while he was here. But
yeah, I just don't. I think he could have done something a bit more, but sometimes it's the manager as well. Sometimes if Eddie didn't fancy him as a player, then that might be one of the reasons why he didn't shine. Of course, Eddie sees him in training all the time, and has to make that call on players. I honestly, it's sad to say, a bit of a wasted talent. We've had a couple of those over the years.
Yeah, no, you definitely have, and yeah. But I've got one more choice just to discuss, and another name from the past that you may not know, probably don't know or remember. But Robert Murray. Now, Robert Murray, do you know what? He's one of those. He played over 170 times for Bournemouth, but he's one of those that I remember playing, but don't remember playing consistently. And I think he does still hold the record for the youngest ever player to start in the first team for Bournemouth. I think he was only about 16 at the time. he signed on as an apprentice in '92, and he made his debut the same year. So, yeah, he was one that I vaguely, I say vaguely remember. I do remember, but I don't remember like being very, very consistent in the team. But every time he come into the team, he always put a shift in. Always 110%. And he could play across the back four. He could play in midfield. He was just a great player, I thought, and quite underrated. He moved on in the end. I think he actually did have a bit of a falling out with Mel Machin, I think, at a game at Walsall, I think it was. And then he moved on to the Richmond Kickers, which I believe was in America, before coming back to play for Dorchester Town. So yeah, that's what I remember. But we won't touch on him for too long because obviously I don't think you guys will probably have much to say on him. So Nigel Spackman, Malcolm's choice for today's show is Nigel Spackman. So Spackman began his professional career at Bournemouth after playing non-league football. So we actually spotted him playing for Andover and we signed him. He played as a central midfielder and known for his energy, stamina, and tactical awareness. And his performances at Bournemouth earned him a move to a higher level, showcasing his potential as a future top-flight player. So as you can see from his career, he had 2 spells at Chelsea, had a spell at Liverpool during a great era there, 87, 89. I'm sure that was still a great era for Liverpool in the late 80s. And Rangers as well. He played over 100 times for Rangers. So, yeah, definitely a quality player. But Malcolm, if you're watching this one, do pop in the comments exactly why you thought he was underrated while at Bournemouth. Obviously before my time, unfortunately. So I never had the privilege to see him play in a Cherry shirt. But thank you for your selection anyway. Right, Mr. Humby.
Yeah.
Your selection now is Wade Elliott, mate. So please tell us why you think he was underrated while at Bournemouth.
It's for the way he used to run down that wing is unbelievable. That's when I first started going as a teaser ticket holder.
Oh yeah.
So that's one player I admired really.
Yeah.
His dribbling skills.
Yeah. But why do you think he was underrated? Do you think he was underrated because he should have had a bigger move earlier than he did? Do you think is that the case? Or do you think he should have played in the Premier League for much longer? I know he had a short spell in the Premier, didn't he, with Burnley? Was it a season in the Premier with Burnley?
I think he could have played there a lot longer.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And I would say, coming from Bashley, I think it was what was it? I think it actually says on here, doesn't it? £5,000 Bournemouth paid for him. And he played under Jimmy Case at Bashley. So I would agree with you on the terms that maybe he should have played in the Premier League for a bit longer, I reckon, mate. But yeah, definitely in that way, I would say he's probably underrated. Craig, you got any views on that one?
Yes, definitely. A quality player, wherever he's played. Of course, had a fantastic spell at AFC Bournemouth. Went to Burnley, quite early on. I think didn't he go with didn't he go with Gareth O'Connor at the time?
I think around the same time. I think.
Because Burnley were building quite a decent side in the Championship.
Is that midfield that went? I think.
Yeah, it was.
Gareth O'Connor.
Yeah,
Stock went to Burnley, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think Stock had a spell at Burnley after his spell at Doncaster, didn't he? So
yes,
yeah, and that was when Eddie was there. I think Eddie brought him in because he knew knew what he could do. And I think it was Wade Elliott and Gareth O'Connor that went at a similar time, I think.
But Wade Elliott, I think, apart from Bournemouth and Burnley, is underrated by football. He could
Definitely.
have been playing at a higher level for a lot longer than he did. We love him. Andy Hodgson, of course, the
And
Alan
of course, the
Partridge
Slugger
shot on
love.
TV. Honestly, he absolutely loves him. Absolutely loves Wade Elliott. So, yeah, Wade is a very, very good player. Of course, was part of that team that got them into the Premier League that first time round, and was quite pivotal in doing that. So yeah, a very, very good player.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that was Liam's first choice. And actually, it's funny that we look at his second choice because it's that man there.
I didn't. Do you know what? I didn't know that as well. I didn't know
No.
Gareth O'Connor was coming up. Liam, I'll shut up. Go on. You tell.
I thought Gareth O'Connor was great. I think underrated. To call these two players underrated, they definitely weren't while they were at Bournemouth, but they possibly made across as football. Yeah, as footballers, I can understand your point. Yeah, totally. So, what was what Gareth O'Connor for you then, Liam? What about?
Just floated through midfield, really. You didn't really notice him much. So,
Yeah,
his passing range was good.
Yeah, no, definitely, and he did pop up with quite a few vital goals at times as well, didn't he? And he contributed with free kicks and long range efforts, like you just said there, and was known for his creativity at midfield, wasn't he? So, yeah. But I can see why, as a footballer, maybe across the game, he was underrated. Maybe he could have played at a lot higher level than he did.
Yeah,
definitely would agree with that one, buddy. But thank you for both your choices on that one, Liam. Thank you for that. Nick Gillins on Facebook picked Mark O'Connor. So Mark O'Connor, he came from Bristol Rovers during the mid-80s. And he made his debut on the 18th of March of that same year in a 2-1 win over Bolton Wanderers. And he played a crucial role in Bournemouth's third division title win under Harry Redknapp. And after retiring, which he had a leg injury in 1995, I think he was back at Gillingham then. I think he stayed on in kind of a player coaching role for a little bit, but then he followed Tony Pulis around to Portsmouth, Plymouth, Stoke, Bristol City, and West Brom. So, one that I would probably say. I mean, I do remember him, but I don't remember enough of him to understand maybe why Nick thinks he was underrated. But no, good choice. But yeah, Nick, if you're watching, do pop it in the comments, mate, definitely. And Nick made another choice, and I can understand this one. In John O'Neill. John O'Neill was a great player. Now, for us, he made quite a lot of appearances. He played 125 times for Bournemouth. But to be fair, I would say a lot of his appearances came from the bench. He made a lot of impact substitute appearances. But he could come on up front. He could come on in central midfield. He could come on out wide. He was a good, versatile player to have at the club. But yeah, I would say I would agree with this one. I think he was pretty underrated in his time at Bournemouth, 100%. And again, one of those players that played at Wembley. He was on the bench that day. But yeah, no, he definitely is someone I would say was probably underrated while he was at Bournemouth, 100%. Craig, I don't know if you'll remember much about John O'Neill, to be fair, but Liam, do you?
Not really.
No, Chris, no, 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 no. Like I say, I remember because I was going to games then. But I do get what Nick says there on that one, to be fair. And another one from Nick, last one from Nick, is Richard Cook. So he started out at Spurs. I believe he was actually on the bench for the UEFA the old UEFA Cup final. I think when it was a 2-leg. I think he was on the bench for Spurs for that one, if I remember rightly. But yeah, he was known as a winger, had a lot of pace and creativity. And he scored important goals for Bournemouth as well. There's a goal there he scored during the 80s where he's celebrating with John Williams, and I think that's Trevor All-Up. So yeah, interesting selection there, Nick, for an underrated player in Richard Cook. So let's now move on to Chris's choice. Chris, so you picked Mark. You picked Mark Pugh.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Why did you pick Mark Pugh as an underrated player then, mate? What
He was a great player when I first seen him. We got promoted to the Premier League. I remember giving me his hand and he slapped it up. What are you doing that for? I was like, yeah, it's a great player for us under Eddie. And goals that he scored, and stuff that he's doing now. So that's why he's my underrated player.
Yeah, excellent. Do you think he could have played at top level for longer?
He could have played top level a bit longer, but he stops.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you for this choice, Chris. Good, interesting choice. One of my favourite players. And I do think
thanks, Liam.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I think Craig, I do think sometimes people could see him underrated.
Was he underrated by Bournemouth?
Did people give him the credit? People like outside of Bournemouth.
Outside of Bournemouth, he didn't get the credit. He didn't get the credit he deserved.
Because he scored that all-important goal.
Yeah, the Bolton one. Yeah, I remember that one. I was there.
Yeah, he's one of those players that he's definitely not underrated here.
Do it.
Oh, honestly, he's such. He didn't look out of place in the Premier League at all.
I don't think he
did. I think he was quality. And,
no, he didn't.
Yeah, he is one of the biggest legends of this football club.
Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I would agree with you there. I would agree with you. I think maybe across the footballing world, people may have thought he was
anti-Fletcher.
But let's move on to the last choice then, Chris, which is Steve Fletcher.
Super Fletch.
Super Fletch, yes, indeed. And I do kind of understand why you've selected Super Fletch, because I think personally he was underrated. And the reason being is because he's an absolute hero for what he'd done for Bournemouth. But I honestly think when he was playing, especially in the picture there, in the home shirt in that era, he was definitely the best target man outside the Premier League.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
He was.
Without a doubt. There was not a better target man in outside of the Premier League than Steve Fletcher. Without a doubt.
Super Fletch.
Yeah, definitely. So I get your choice with this one, Chris. I totally understand why you'd say he's underrated. Yeah. Craig.
He's not underrated. He's just Super Fletch. He's just a legend, isn't he?
Obviously not underrated for Bournemouth, but
I know, but
And he did have his opportunities, didn't he? He did have his opportunities to go. I mean, I think QPR were very, very interested.
Who wants to go there? At the end of the day,
I think they were doing well in Division 1 at the time, and but he stuck with his heart and he stayed with Bournemouth, which obviously that's a fairy tale story. But I just think that he never used to get the credit. I mean, a lot of people used to say he don't score goals. Well, his job wasn't just about scoring goals. His goal. No. You speak to any of his strike partners, and the work that he did for them. In terms of, taking a defender out or holding the ball up or flicking the ball on, creating for them.
The one I really remember is Warren Feeney. Them two together, they were excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first strike partner I think I saw him play with was Steve Cottrell. I think, if I remember rightly. And at the time, Fletcher used to wear number 9. And Cottrell wore number 10. I'm going back to like that sort of era. And Fletcher was only very, very young then. But as he developed and his game got better over the years, you know, I just think he could have easily played Division 1 level. Easily.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Easily, without a doubt. And like I say, you know, he did have, he was shown interest by more clubs than probably people actually realise as well. And he, you know, fair play to him. He stayed at Bournemouth. I mean, you don't get that loyalty now, do you? But I just think in terms of him as a player, he was underrated. He could have played at a bigger level.
Yeah, I think, you know, he's
Got
just
the underrated achievements there, mate.
Say again, Greg?
I think he absolute legend for turning down those bigger moves. And Steve Fletcher, he's not underrated for me. He's just God.
No, he's not underrated in terms of Bournemouth, but yeah, as a player, I think he could have played at a higher level. I'm glad he didn't, because obviously he is a hero. But yeah, interesting choices there from everybody. Thank you to everybody that gave us some choices. And we're just going to reveal Guess the Cherry, Craig. Then over to you.
Yes, definitely. Here we go. So, Guess the Cherry. He was born in Scotland in 1971. Oh, that's a terrible Scottish accent, isn't it? But I won't do that again. Began his pro career with Luton Town. Has one full Scotland cap. He played for Southampton and Coventry. Played in the Champions League with Celtic. Signed for the Cherries in July 2007. But terminated his contract in December that year. And as he was ruled out injured to help the Cherries' financial problems. Who is he? Who is he?
So, Liam, got any ideas?
Not sure, really.
No? Okay. Chris, have you got any idea who Guess the Cherry is?
Is it Joe Parkinson?
Oh, no, but good guess. Good guess.
So
Craig, do you want to reveal this week's Guess the Cherry?
Yeah, I think I know.
Go on and have a guess.
I know everything.
Ooh, I think it is. Is it? What's his name? Telfer. Is it Telfer?
Oh, reveal.
Yes, there we go. Paul Telfer.
I didn't get you.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember. You know, when that year, just to
How did you get that?
ease the problems, really. You know that the club were having. So Paul Telfer it was.
Paul Telfer. Wow.
Telfer.
That's
There we go.
Telfer.
There we go.
Cool.
Telfer.
Well,
damn.
I think that wraps it up then, Craig. Done it for this week?
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much for coming on, Chris and Liam.
Craig.
Good to see you again.
Liam.
And please hit the like, subscribe, the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. Also, do vote for us in the Football Content Awards.
I did.
There we are. Do what Chris did. Vote for us. See you in the next one. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherry.
Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.